How Gary Payton got the name the Glove. Not many of the NBA 75 got there primarily based on their defensive ability. But Gary Payton was no ordinary defensive player. The guard imposed his will on the game in a way usually reserved for offensive superstars. NBC commentator Kevin Johnson, one of the reasons for the Glove nickname, said it best. "It's funny, but he's such a good defensive player he sets the tone for the game. He gets people thinking, man, he's gonna be all over the ball. We gotta be prepared for that." It's usually the other way around, where you're worried about a scorer. Honestly, Payton was such an excellent defensive player that it is a crime that the man only won a single Defensive Player of the Year award in 1996. Of course, the award traditionally goes to centers and other prominent men. So when Gary won, he was the only point guard ever to win one. And he retained that singularity until Celtic guard Marcus Smart won the award in 2022. What made the Glove such an excellent defensive player? Part of it was Gary's awe-inspiring strength. He could outpush and outshove the biggest guys, which mattered greatly in an era of physical basketball. But far more important was his basketball intelligence. Payton could read your body and eyes. He knew where his man was headed before they made up their minds. But while his reputation leans heavily on Payton's defensive prowess, his offensive capability made him a star. Few defensive specialists are also top-notch scorers and creators. The Glove had 7 seasons averaging over 20 points and 6 seasons with over 8 assists per game. He is 11th in the all-time assist list and 5th in steals, all while being quite possibly the most defensively effective guard in basketball history. So it's no surprise that he had 9 All-Star appearances. We love a good nickname. But while baseball is full of incredible ones like the Splendid Splinter for Ted Williams and the Secretary of Defense for Gary Maddox, many of the basketball equivalents fall flat like D-Wade or are just initials like MJ. But Payton's nickname is evocative and fits him like a, what's the word I'm looking for? Everyone thinks they know why Gary Payton is known as the Glove. After all, Gary was all over the players he guarded and covered them like a glove would cover your hand. So the poor players he neutralized must have come up with the name. That must be it. Clip over? Close, but not exactly. The nickname was derived during the 1993 NBA playoffs when the Sonics played the Phoenix Suns in the Western Conference Finals, and Gary was given the task of guarding Kevin Johnson. Now, the Suns guard was one of the significant scoring threats on the team, but Payton was killing him. The Sonic guard remembers. So I'm killing K. Johnson right now, holding him to 12 points. So we go and win Game 6 and force Game 7. My cousin called me after the game. I had like 24, 10, or about 5. Kevin Johnson had about 12, 6, and 4. And I'm eating him up, and the TV talking about it. And my cousin called me up like, glove, glove, glove. I'm like, man, what is this, man? I hung up on him. He called me back like, yo, don't hang up the phone, man. It's your cousin, Glenn. I'm like, what's up, man? Why are you calling me Glove? He was like, me and my frat brother's sitting here. And they said you got Kevin Johnson like a baseball in a glove. So tight around him he can't even move. I said, that's how my D really is, 'cause I do get on people. And even since then, we ran with it. We started putting out gear, and then the NBA took off with the nickname. So many frat boys came up with one of the most remarkable and memorable nicknames in NBA history. Turns out they are good for more than beer pong. The Glove wasn't just all over you defensively, he also surrounded you with words. Nasty ones. Gary was one of the most notorious trash talkers of any era in a league that excels in that department. But trash talk is meaningless if you can't back it up. But Payton certainly could. Chris Mullin remembers that the fierce mocking he received from the guard made you want to get back at him even more. But ultimately, the real frustration came from how great a player he was. Backing it up, That's when trash talking goes to another level. If you trash talk and can't back it up, you're just a clown. Isaiah Thomas, already an established superstar in the league playing for the two-time champion Detroit Pistons, remembers that Payton verbally abused him the first time they played. Thomas recalls, "I'm holding the basketball and looking at him. And then I had to turn around, and I was like, is he really talking to me? He was talking so much trash. I didn't know him though, but it sure worked." Isaiah was held to 3 for 13 while making 5 turnovers. Payton won a single NBA title in 2006 with the Miami Heat towards the end of his career. However, he is best remembered for his time with the Seattle Sonics. In 1996, that team reached the NBA Finals against Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. Along with center Shawn Kemp, Payton was the biggest star on that excellent team, which won 64 games in the regular season. Gary had the unenviable job of stopping MJ. It's worth remembering that coach George Karl hesitated to put Payton on the star because the glove was recovering from a torn calf muscle. But when it became clear that neither Hersey Hawkins nor Detlef Schrempf could cut it, Payton was given the job. But unfortunately, by then, the Sonics were down 0-3. So Gary was tasked with stopping Jordan from starting in Game 4. If you watch the documentary, The Last Dance, you might remember Jordan dismissing Payton. He said, "I had no problem with the glove. I had other things on my mind." But that is just bravado. Gary did an incredible job guarding the Bulls superstar. The numbers don't lie. Jordan averaged 23.7 points on 36.7% during that series. Just compare that to his performance in the playoffs until that point, when MJ scored 32.1 points per game at a rate of 47.6%. The fourth game started with Payton sending a message. Right on the first play, you can see the glove breaking a block to stay on Jordan and deny him a shot. The principle of his defensive scheme was simple. Deny MJ the space he needed to weave his magic. By constantly swiping, he disrupted Jordan's rhythm and made him rush shots, leading to those lower percentages. Not coincidentally, the Sonics won Games 4 and 5 with the help of the glove's spectacular defense. Indeed, if Payton had been healthy and guarded Jordan the entire series, Seattle may have won the series. And Gary also nailed Jordan with his off-the-court trash talk. When asked who was better, Jordan or LeBron James, the glove did not hesitate. "I think LeBron is an all-around basketball player. If you ask me who is a better all-around basketball player, LeBron James, by far, does everything. He passes the ball better than Jordan, can dribble a little better than Jordan. Shooting-wise, I don't think so. Rebounding, I think he did, but so did Jordan." In conclusion, Gary Payton was the best defensive guard in NBA history and the best perimeter defender ever. He coupled intense coverage and steals with relentless trash talking. Payton, indeed, covered his man like a glove.